All right, welcome back. We are here for Sacrifice finally. For Sacrifice 2022, week 1 of March. Um, Probably going to put this right off the bat. I'm not gonna say this will be my last video for a while, but I think future videos are going to be a little more infrequent than they already are. Originally, I wanted to do them about one a week, and as you can see, that hasn't quite been the case. It's probably been about one every 2 weeks. Um, Maybe the next couple episodes of Impact after Sacrifice I can get out, but just because of scheduling, life stuff, nothing big, but just um, it's hot outside and I have a yard to maintain. And also, work has been debating, banning about uh in office work again. I've been working from home, thankfully, this whole time during the pandemic. That might change, that might not. We are still unsure, but if that does happen, that's just going to be less time I can devote to doing this. So basically, the original plan was I wanted to get through Sacrifice and go through there. Um, Doing a little bit more of future booking and planning. I definitely want to get to at least Slammiversary, which is in June of this year. So that'll be quite some time in my in-game schedule time. So, um, but I only have long-term plans and not quite the roadmap to get there. So, um, like I said, I kind of have maybe the impact or two after Sacrifice currently in mind, but beyond that, not a whole lot other than just the big marquee matches. Well, not big marquee matches, but some, programs for the next couple pay-per-views, but again, that's probably going to be kind of infrequent. So, just wanted to get that out of the way. As far as Impact, before we go into the actual show, um we have some news. One note is actually pretty big, but I'm going to keep it till after Sacrifice. It should not affect us tonight, but it does involve somebody that we just signed recently. So, if that does become an issue tonight, I will mention it, but I doubt I will. We had a backstage incident before the show that I already took care of. It was basically, I think it was Hernandez. Yeah, it was Hernandez. Did not go out partying and had to go in front of Wrestler's Court and buy some beer. So a thing of note was that Sammy Callahan was the judge for Wrestler's Court for Impact, someone who I have not been using, someone I've been debating about letting go, someone who is, as of this, well, usable, but in real life was injured. So I'm debating bringing him back or not. Strongly leaning towards not, but yeah. So he's kind of like our locker room leader. Um, he's also a road agent, but I also try not to use him in that capacity either. But speaking of road agents, we did extend deals to some, and one has accepted, and that is Eric Stevens. He is retired in this game, in this data. He is signed only as a road agent, and he is located in the southeast. So, as if he is not busy enough making cookies, um, he will be road agenting for Impact for us. Um, Hopefully, we have more coming. I do want to spread the road agent responsibilities around, kind of how it is now. it's either usually it's like I have Chris Sabin usually agenting X Division matches that he's not in. Gail Kim or Madison Rayne agenting the women's matches or segments. Jimmy Jacobs, who usually agents um, like entertainment segments and some matches. And then Rhino and D'Lo Brown kind of agenting the rest. Scott Demore is also an agent, and so is Robert Evans, but the times I've used them kind of hurt scores, so I don't use them all that often. So that is why we've hired Eric Stevens, and maybe there will be more on the way. I know there's one other uh, possible deal that could be accepted soon, but hasn't been yet, so I won't say anything. And then also kind of related to that backstage incident, I did go into locker room controls, and yeah, I already did it, but I did do an open forum, and a lot of the people who have below or like not good um morale did get to speak their mind and get a morale boost. Um but didn't really seem to change. I think Jonah is the only one that's back to normal. Um and I think it's Sam Beal, Brandy, Lauren, Hernandez, and Zicky, who have low, well, not low morale, but below average morale, I guess you should say. So, hopefully we can get them back in our good graces soon. But other than that, let's just go into Impact and get started. All right, so we start off our pre-show, our YouTube pre-show with Violence versus Violence, the Gospel of Violence versus Violence by Design. Um, we have the Gospel of Violence going over in their debut match. Basically, Diener is kind of the weak link. He's been, well, not necessarily the weak link, but booked to be the weak link, considering he's pretty much outpowered by everyone in this match, including his own partner. And of course, the relationship between the two isn't that great anyway. Doering does get a chance to, um, insert his own bit of violence, but when it comes to Diener kind of ends up being overeager, tags himself in, and pays the price for it. He ends up eating the pin, with Doering not necessarily willing to bail him out. But yeah, it's Brody pinning Diener. Um, segment rating of 29. No real negatives here, so good debut for Brody and Bateman, and hopefully they will be a good asset to our tag division. So after the match, the Gospel of Violence make their way up the ramp. Um, as they celebrate, they are interrupted by Eric Young, who comes out on crutches as he is still injured. Eric Young kind of stares down Brody and Tyler and kind of makes it clear that he has the reason he's out here has nothing to do with them and demands they let him by, which they do. Gospel Violence go to the back. Eric Young is helped into the ring. He takes the mic and he's like, this, whatever issues you two have to work out, better do it now because this isn't how Violent by Design is supposed to go. We are the ones that are supposed to be on top. We're supposed to be running Impact, and Impact has been running over us, and I'm not gonna let that stand. So you two better, basically get your shit together, or um, you know, pay the price. And Doring and Diener are kind of like staring each other down, looking each other up and down, and um, after a few minutes, after a few moments, cooler heads decide to prevail, and they do shake hands, but Eric Young then cracks a crutch over the back of Diener, which allows Joe Doering to lay him out with a lariat. And Doering continues to put some boots to Diener with Eric Young calling the shots. So it looks like Diener is now out of Violent by Design. Well, Eric is injured, so Doring does a lot of damage, but the message is clear. They leave Diener laying broken, um, and they walk off without him. Segment 29. And then in our 10-woman knockouts match, who uh for the number one contendership of the knockouts title, Taya Valkyrie wins. I don't have this one as booked out in my mind as well as I did the Swingers Battle Royal. So basically, um, Taya and Havok are, you know, they spend a lot of the match squaring off, but also eliminating anyone that gets in their way. Interesting to note that Tenille Dashwood would have been interrupted multiple or eliminated multiple times if it weren't for her partners, the inspiration. Um, basically catching her on the way down and putting her back in the ring. Um, the game booked Madison Rayne as most eliminations. I didn't set that, but I probably would have given that to either Madison or Taya. But basically, the final two boils down to Taya and Tenille. And it comes when Taya eliminates Tenille and throws her out of the ring so hard that she bowls over the inspiration and are not able to catch her on the way down and put her back in the ring. So Taya wins. She's next in line for a knockouts title shot. Whoever wins tonight's match between Deonna Purrazzo and Rosemary. Segment rating of 31. Rachel Ellering was off her game tonight. And then to end our pre-show for Impact, we get Quinn McKay in with the Impact champion Moose in his locker room. Of course, if you watched the last episode of Impact, it ended with Moose pressing charges on Josh Alexander and having him arrested. Quinn McKay is here to get to the bottom of what that means for tonight's main event, if it is even going to happen. And Moose, says he wouldn't dream of, letting the fans down. He knows the fans have been wanting this match to happen, and he's buttering up to the fans. But he reveals that he dropped the charges against Josh Alexander this morning. And as far as he knows, Alexander is hopefully on his way to the Impact Zone or wherever this is being held. Um, so yeah, the main event is on. Loser leaves Impact. Moose versus Josh Alexander. 2 out of 3 falls, but as far as we know, Josh Alexander is not in the building yet. With the charges being dropped this morning, so he has spent probably over 24 hours in jail. So of course, Alexander is probably pissed, and this is a whole thing of Moose getting the underhanded upper hand once again with, all these lawyer injunctions and now getting him arrested. So, segment rating of 28. And we go into Sacrifice proper with Brian Myers and Avery Good versus Heath Slater and Rhino. Um, Of course, Brian Myers and Avery Good earned this match last month. They got, they're finally on the main card of a pay-per-view, but unfortunately, they take the loss here. where basically botched interference by VSK distracts well, more or less distracts Brian Myers. Myers kind of, as he is wont to do, kind of has Avery Good take a lot of the damage in this match as part of training exercises, if you will. Um, and Nick Stap CPA was also kind of a outside nuisance, but basically Avery Good eats a gore. Brian Myers is not there to make the save, and Avery gets the pin. Learning Tree loses again. He seemed off his game. Segment rating of 36. But after the match, when as Heath and Rhino are celebrating their victory, um, at first it does kind of seem like there's dissension in the learning tree. They're all kind of shoving each other. More Brian Myers, disappointed in the loss, but eventually, all four gang up on Heath and Rhino, and the numbers games is too much. So the learning tree are, a dysfunctional unit, but are at least capable enough of taking out a tired Heath and Rhino post match. So, segment rating of 25 for that. And then after the match, we just get a brief segment where Josh Alexander makes his way to the arena. So basically, Josh Alexander kicks the door in. He stomps his way in. He's not dressed. He has his luggage. He probably just came out of jail or a stop from home to get his gear or whatever, and basically stomps his way to the locker room. Um, Kind of get the vibe that some people want to uh, at least congratulate him, good luck, but are too afraid to because obviously Alexander is pissed and plans to take that out on Moose. So segment rating 29, just a little bit of something to advance the storyline a bit more and get over that Alexander is very angry. um, and we will see how that happens with the main event. So we have the Knockouts title. Deonna Purrazzo versus Rosemary. We so Deonna Purrazzo did go into a reminder that, yeah, excuse me. Deonna Purrazzo did go into this match injured, but decided to work through it. We tried to protect her as much as possible, but the injury took a toll. And we kind of I could kind of booked it shorter than I would like to, but this was more a bit more of a storytelling match. But basically, we have Rosemary kind of getting the upper hand. Raywalt is at ringside and tries to interfere, but suddenly Black Taurus comes out, and Raywalt instantly like makes his way out of the ring. He's afraid. He doesn't want any of Taurus. Um, and then there's kind of a moment where Rosemary and Taurus um, kind of look at each other, and as a reminder that Decay is broken up, so she's kind of wondering, and everyone's kind of wondering why Black Taurus is out to help her. But um, they go in for a hug, and Black Taurus basically plants Rosemary with a belly to belly suplex, flattening her and leaving her open for a pin from Deonna. So we have Black Taurus turning heel. Um, and we will see how that goes. Again, turn compromise as a lot of these have been. So still trying to get a thing handle on these heel turns. But yeah, Deonna Purrazzo retains the Knockouts title with help from Black Taurus of all people. Segment rating of 31. And after that, we have a brief segment where Deonna is basically celebrating her title defense, and we get a little bit of an explanation as to why Black Taurus won when um she's collecting her titles. She gives the ROH World title to, or the ROH Knockouts title for Rayne to carry, and gives the AAA Reina de Reinas title for Black Taurus to carry. So it looks like Black Taurus is at the very least, hired help for Deonna. Um, we don't really know the relationship for sure, but she kind of has the two carrying her titles while she carries her Knockouts title. And is it possible she's doubling up her like insurance policy to make sure she hangs on to all these titles? We're not 100% sure, but Black Taurus is heel and aligned himself with Deonna and Rayne, which the celebration gets a segment rating of 39. We had Jake Morrissey, no. um Jake something versus W Morrissey goes to a double countout brawl. Yeah, this is booked as a wild brawl, I believe. Um we had Eric Stevens kind of his first show working. He could have done better as a road agent, but I put him on this match. Morrissey was off of his game, but basically, yeah, two big men going brawl. The brawl spills out to the outside. Um, we kind of get the vibe that something does want to uh finish the match in the ring so that he can prove a victory. But now that they are outside of the ring, Morrissey decides to uh, brawl away from the ring, so that basically and triggers the double countout brawl. Kind of get the vibe that something wants to win while Morrissey is uh, willing to settle for the countout draw, so that he, in the event that something would defeat him, that would not happen. So yeah, something actually has a better ring performance than Morrissey because Morrissey was off of his game. But yeah, this continues. Segment rating 26, and it continues with a further backstage brawl. Basically, um, once the match is over, they both decide fuck it and keep brawling through the back and are pulled apart. So that gets a segment rating of 29. Again, Eric Stevens was road agenting this segment and um, was not put together that well, but this is his first night, so hopefully he improves. We shall see. But yeah, the feud between Morrissey and something still unresolved. We have the Good Brothers defending the Impact Tag Team titles against Rich Swann and Willie Mack. Um, Underdog story for Swann and Mack, but they, in the end, can't get it done. This doesn't help because, or says Doc Gallows was off his game, but still did a 45. Willie Mack was the weak link, but getting better. Um, so segment rating of 38. Not as good as previous matches with the Good Brothers would have done, maybe, but considering they're feuding with the Wolves, who also would bring segment rating or good ratings. So uh proof that the Good Brothers aren't just carrying the tag team division on their own. But Basically, the end of the match has Rich Swann eating the pin when Chris Bay, of all people, come out and interfere. Opens Rich Swann up for a magic killer. So Swann takes the pin with the magic killer. Good Brothers retain. And after the match, um Bay is standing in the ring with the Good Brothers and he throws up the Too Sweet. And as you know, Chris Bay has had his problems with the uh, USA segment of the Bullet Club. And last we heard from him, he said he was going to a higher authority. It looks like that higher authority seems to be the Good Brothers. And at first, they too sweet him until Chris Bay also eats a magic killer. So things not looking good for Chris Bay and his time with the Bullet Club. Uh, Segment rating 41, which did a little bit better than the actual match. So, we shall see how the Bullet Club works out for Chris Bay in the future, if at all possible. We get the mixed tag from Marie Kanellis and Mike Bennett versus Jordynne Grace and Jonathan Gresham, both husband and wife tag teams. Um, we get basically kind of a continuation of the Bennett versus Gresham match where they're kind of too preoccupied with each other. Last time they fought, it went to I think a double DQ, but this time the ending focus comes when Maria Kanellis rolls up Jordynne Grace from behind, and guest referee Chelsea Green does a fast count. As we know, Chelsea Green was badmouthed by Maria Kanellis when she and her husband returned to Impact and, basically called her a loser. And Chelsea Green wanted to get a measure of revenge by guest reffing this match. And it looks like she was in on it all along to give Jordynne Grace a loss. So, segment rating of 33. And then in our next segment, we basically get the confirmation that Chelsea Green was in on it all along. She aligned herself with Maria and Michael Bennett. She is laughing at Jordynne Grace and kind of mixed emotions that she wants to go after her digital media championship once again. But yeah, the uh, trash talking from Maria when she debuted towards Chelsea Green was all an act. This was all a plan to embarrass Jordynne Grace, and her husband died by default. So, segment rating of 36, and considering this is another turn, dun, 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 compromised, fun. So, I imagine the next episode of Impact, I will probably have to go through all of the morale issues that we're having from bad turns. So yeah, Chelsea Green has aligned herself with Maria and Mike. We get a backstage interview. Quinn McKay is interviewing Shane Strickland. Um, Quinn is hasn't been impressed with Shane so far, and but also wants to know what's next for him in the X division. And they mentioned Swerve has been kind of observing other X Division matches, uh, which brings out Chris Sabin. As you remember from the last episode of Impact, Shane Strickland's presence with his match between against Steve Macklin caused him to lose caused Macklin to capitalize and roll Saban up for the win. And Saban's like, you know, I know you're a big name coming into Impact right now, but I've been here almost the entire time. It's been 20 years of Impact, and I've been here for almost all of them. And, you know, for you to just walk in and, you know, I won't say, you know, you caused me to lose the match, but, you know, having to lose a match against Backlund is embarrassing. And yeah, maybe that's on me. Maybe I'm getting too distracted, but, you know, if that's the case, if, you know, if you're coming in and staking your claim to Impact, then you're, you know, if you're staking your claim to Impact and you know stepping up as like the next big thing in the X division, you're gonna have to go through me. And I say we do it next week on Impact. And it looks like Swerve has no problem with it. They you know shake on it, maybe not literally, but yeah. We have a match set for the next episode of Impact: Swerve versus Saban. I must have forgot to script this, but thankfully Shane Strickland and Quinn McKay were able to improvise well, which is good. And then Eric Stevens again got another segment where wasn't as put together well, but thankfully we have some good improvisers. Segment rating of 37. All right, so we have our X Division title match. Trey Miguel defending against Shark Boy, who made his return to Impact last week or this past week, um, and earned himself a shot. Surprisingly, we get the point over that um Shark Boy is older and likely slower, and we wonder if he is able to hang with Trey Miguel. And if you see the rating, it looks like he hasn't been. But we also put over the fact that in all of his years of impact and all of his years being a cult favorite, Shark Boy has never won the X Division championship. So would this be his night? Um, It for much of the match, I kind of booked this another uh low time limit protection of Shark Boy, considering how probably older and more out of shape he is than he used to be. But we use that to our advantage in the story because near the end of the match we have Shark Boy outside the ring. Trey Miguel does his cool like knee slide dive and is able to uh, hit Shark Boy with that. And it looks like Shark Boy is having trouble getting back in the ring. So the ref institutes the ring count. And it looks like Shark Boy isn't going to make it into the ring, but he does at the very last second. And it looks like he um does so with a renewed burst of energy to the point where his old Shark Boy man gut sorry Shark Boy, but that is gone, and he looks, you know, a little bit more in shape and possibly younger, if you will. Um but this development is kind of lost to Trey Miguel because Shark Boy kicks him in the gut, gives him a stunner, and out of nowhere, with this renewed strength, Shark Boy wins the X Division title. And Shark Boy immediately takes the title and title belt and celebrates. The Shark Boyhood dream has come true. Shark Boy is, after all these years, is finally the X Division champion. Um, Jumping around the ring with a renewed energy that he did not have before. The match gets a 22 because Shark Boy's probably not as best. He had a 22, while Miguel had a 27. Uh, the storyline has lost heat, and hopefully I can do some creative editing here. So while Shark Boy is celebrating at ringside with the X Division title, we get Shark Boy also crawling out underneath the ring, like holding his head and out of breath and wondering what the hell's going on. And once he comes to, Shark Boy sees another Shark Boy holding the X Division title. There are two Shark Boys, one noticeably more fit than the other and energetic than the other. And of course, everyone's confused. Trey Miguel is confused, partially from being suddenly pinned and losing the X Division title, uh, which brings out Homicide. And Homicide is, of course, the X Division enforcer right now, and he's like pointing at the Shark Boys. He's like, one of you has to, whoever, someone's got to unmask. He doesn't have a mic, but he's motioning, someone's got to unmask. But the Shark Boy who had just won the X Division title, plants Homicide with the X Division title belt and runs away. So we do not get an explanation as to who this Shark Boy is. Um, Hopefully I will be able to edit out who the other Shark Boy is. I won't say it, but um, I'm going to have to do some creative editing here, like I said. So yeah, Shark Boy is the X Division champion, but is it the real Shark Boy? Segment rating of 35, and we will continue with our main event. Moose gets a spectacular over the top entrance. We want to put over the fact that Moose is the champion and he's basically put every roadblock in Josh Alexander's way, and thus is able to put together a big entrance saying why he's so great and why he's the champ and blah blah blah, while Alexander probably has not had time to prepare for the match from being in jail, um, let alone prepare a entrance. So that gets a segment rating of 30. Um, Lack of anything interesting was a problem. I think I had this set for I think the default is 5 minutes. Like the default for like these special entrances is like 5 minutes, but then even if you do the minimum, it's lack of anything interesting, or stuff happening for so long. Well, don't give me the option to book it for so long. So yeah, Moose comes in, he's got his entrance, he's doing great, blah blah blah. And eventually Josh Alexander makes his entrance and we get our 2 out of 3 falls match. See how this happens. I booked this to be pretty long. One, considering it's a 2 out of 3 falls match, and two, considering this is, the end of the feud, because of course one person's gonna be fired at the end of it. But 2 out of 3 falls, we have a special ring announcement, and as the opening bell rings for the first fall, Moose hits Josh Alexander with the title belt, triggering a disqualification. And we wonder why Moose did that. But it's clear when that is announced, Moose goes to pin Alexander and gets a pin. He knocked him out enough to get a pin. So while Moose was disqualified for the first fall, already earns the second fall, and the match is only like a few seconds in. So um And then for the third, Moose tries to go for yet another pinfall, but does not get it. Alexander kicks out. So we get the match. It basically boils down to a uh, single fall match because Moose disqualified himself and then got a pin, so it's technically 1-1. Um, but Alexander is we definitely wanted to have him fight back from underneath. Um, but in the end, over the course of probably 20 or so minutes, I wanted this. I think I booked it as a spectacle. Yeah, and we wanted it to be a big finish. Pace slowly, but it works its way to a big finish. Jay Chung is at ringside. Well, not at ringside. We have her at um sitting in the first row cheering on her husband. But um after a while we get like Alexander is able to fight back and kind of go through all of his reserve strength and make probably multiple comebacks. But the end comes when Moose goes for that flippy spear, but Alexander is able to roll through with it and locks Moose into an ankle lock. And Moose, you know, is able to uh kick out of it for, a few times, but just the tenacity of Alexander, he is able to keep it locked on no matter how much Moose tries to reverse it. And then until he grapevines it in the middle of the ring, and it is locked on for so long that Moose has no choice but to tap out. After all of his shenanigans and after, every roadblock put in Alexander's way, and none of that worked, Alexander is able to regain the Impact World title, and Moose has to leave Impact. Segment rating of 35. Uh, the match was too long, so that was a hit. Moose got a 35, 39. Alexander got 36, so I think it would have otherwise got a bigger number if it wasn't booked so long, but again, that's my fault. I wanted this to be like a big epic feud ending match and show ending match. And then it just kind of ended up being somewhat average. So but yeah, and as Alexander um celebrates, Scott D'Amore makes his way out to the ring and fires Moose. We have not seen Scott D'Amore since not the last episode of Impact, but the one before where he was accidentally laid out by Alexander. He's doing fine now, and he is back, and he says, "Moose, you're fired." And to basically add insult to injury, has security escort him from the premises, much like Moose had done to Alexander on the last episode of Impact. So that gives a segment rating of 28, and that's how we end Sacrifice. Moose is gone. Josh Alexander is the Impact World Champion. We get a total show of 33, or total rating of 33. I was kind of wondering when I was putting this together, I was thinking this show is either going to be really good or really bad. Ended up being kind of average. Um, kind of hoped that the ending of Alexander versus Moose would have done better numbers. Kind of was wondering how the whole Shark Boy angle would go, considering he is older and slower. Um, Even though we're kind of um, like I said, there is a second Shark Boy. Um, this is going to be interesting to edit. Um, we had Deonna Purrazzo coming in. She retains, but she came into the title match injured. We had couple heel turns, which did not go as well, like they haven't been. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should say it's a disappointment, but shall see. We should obviously congratulate Josh Alexander for uh we'll give him a hug. I don't want to like uh give him a huge prop. Oh, excuse me, kind of gassy. I don't want to give him a good prop for a great performance considering it was somewhat average. And let's just say well, let's Deonna Purrazzo, we will kind of encourage since she is injured right now and had to work through it, and we'll say Shark Boy um, to point out as a good example for uh I don't know. No, let's give him some encouragement too, because this was kind of a show where people didn't really do great and didn't really do as well as we had hoped. But so we'll give out some hugs and encouragement. Josh Alexander is pleased. Deion Pratzo is pleased, and Shark Boy is pleased. So, at least those people will be pleased. Um, yeah. So while that ends, we will see you at the next episode of Impact, whenever that may be. Um, yeah. So yeah, anyone I know, like not a lot of people have been watching this, but for the 20 or so people that do, thanks. Like I said, I don't know how frequent future episodes are going to be, but I would like to at least book through to Slammiversary. So we'll see how long that takes. And if if you don't want to watch, yeah, if you don't continue watching, I don't blame you. But if you do decide to stick around, thanks, and thanks for watching.